Which one of these two faces is more attractive? I'm guessing you thought it was the one on the right. Am I right or left? Which way? You'll have to flip it. You're going to have to flip it to make sure that the better looking one is on the right. The important question we need to understand as aesthetic clinicians is why. If a face is deemed more attractive, there are all sorts of hidden benefits for that individual. It's a communication of fitness and attractiveness that makes people want to collaborate with you. If you want to understand how to give your patients this, or if you're a patient who wants to make sure you're getting the right treatment, then make sure you watch this video to see what makes for an attractive face. My mission is to help clinicians around the world integrate longevity into their aesthetic practices. The trend is absolutely towards wellness. The whole world is becoming more and more interested about how to live healthier lives. And that starts with your skin and how you feel. Many aesthetic practitioners are already doing this, and I'm going to help you do it faster with a more solid grounding in the science. I'm going to be building a world-class longevity clinic in this building. We're going to do everything you already know me for, plus a whole lot more. I'm building a team of clinicians and PhD researchers who are going to do this work for you, pass it on so that you know exactly how to structure your business so that you can be part of the longevity revolution. So what makes a face beautiful? There are many different components, and we need to understand each of them as separate entities so that we can control them. You can start, for example, by thinking about the skin complexion. Skin beauty is essentially about skin health. We are looking for reflective, luminescent skin that shows a rich blood flow with minimal distractions, a smooth, clear canvas that then allows the other features to stand out appropriately. Once you have a canvas, we need to look at the details. You can think of faces in terms of harmony, proportion, and ratios, but there's an underlying component that is often missed, which is what are the components of a healthy looking face. Essentially, every part of your face can be broken down into projecting points, defining lines, and connecting planes. If you consider, for example, a cheek, it's very important that a beautiful cheek has an angle underneath the eye that creates a surface that then reflects light upwards towards the eyes. In fact, you can break down the whole face into a structure that essentially presents the eyes to the world. If you think about the shadows created by a jawline and the shadow created by a cheek, they are essentially framing the eyes and presenting the eyes to the world. Eyes are where humans connect with each other, and a lot of beauty is about allowing eyes to dominate through carefully framing them through the eyebrows and highlighting them from beneath with catch lights developed by projecting cheeks. So the components of the lower face are jawlines. The jawline itself is defined by the changes of angle at the chin and the gonal angle and the connecting line that makes those all part of one structure. If you've created those key elements in a picture or a sculpture, it should be recognizable as a jawline at this point. We can then improve and make it more beautiful by understanding the ratios and how these structures fit together. So for example, if you have a mid-face that's well constructed and we have a cheek that projects outwards and ends at the right point in relationship to the oral commissure, for example, and blends in gently to the underside of the eye, you can then start to relate that to the jawline. And this is really where I think sexual dimorphism becomes a really key part of beauty. If you want to understand attractiveness, we need to understand that in essence, we are talking about sexuality. What is it that makes someone attracted to another person is essentially about survival. And we actually choose all of our friends and sexual relationships according to attractiveness, which essentially means what is it about them that we believe will make us more likely to survive if we hang about with those people. We are often looking for signals that associate health, but also attitude, approachability, friendliness, the ability to collaborate and connect with someone, or for them perhaps to protect you, are all components of what might attract us to an individual. When we are talking about female attractiveness, we are talking often about signals of fertility. This, of course, is not always the case. You don't have to be fertile to be attractive, but the signals that make people attractive are usually associated with fertility. One of the features you may see, for example, is what happens to the skin during the estrous cycle. So if you are fertile as a female, you will have different levels of blood flow. Estrogen even holds on to volume in the skin. You retain water more during the estrous cycle, which then produces additional volume and also will produce additional luminescence to the skin because we have much more moisture in the skin. Hormones are also intimately associated with some very strong signals of sexual dimorphism. For example, having large hair follicles that produce a beard would be associated with high testosterone levels, whereas having very clear skin with very tiny hair follicles will be associated more with high estrogen levels. The distribution of fat is also more likely different in humans with higher levels of estrogen. So fuller features, for example, larger, fuller cheeks, are more common in females, and this extra fat distribution is one of the signals that this is a fertile female, and we tend to find it attractive. Men of a similar weight will have smaller fat pads, which makes for one of the signals that they are more masculine and higher in testosterone. The next feature to consider in terms of what makes someone attractive would be the bony proportions or the angles of the face. As we said earlier, every face is made up of projecting points, defining lines, and connecting planes. And it's the defining points and the size of them that differentiate male and female faces. For example, a male will have strong defining points in the lower face. The chin angle and the gonal angle and the width of the jaw, which is a defining line, all are larger than in females. It's one of the key characteristics that enable us to spot the difference between a male and a female at 200 yards away. If you think of the inverse of this, the female has a relatively small, softer, more petite shaped jaw. So it tends to be rounder rather than having two angles. So you have a rounder, narrower chin and a softer, narrower gonal angle, relative to the cheeks, which tend to be fuller, more laterally projected compared with the jawline. These differences are instantly noticeable to any human as a male or a female face, and it's one of the key ways that we find different people attractive is by seeing that difference between female and male very clearly. Many people will say that symmetry is a key measure of beauty, but this is not always the case. For example, if you have relatively ill-defined features or disproportionate features that aren't clearly male or female, or they are just not clear in general as a facial feature, for example, not being able to see the angle of the cheek, this then, even if you make it symmetrical, will not necessarily make for a more beautiful face. So symmetry is only a small part of beauty, and it's also limited, as in, if you have a face that is too symmetrical, it can actually become uncanny. It seems somehow not natural. There are also many people who are considered above average in beauty who have little asymmetries. Something you will notice with many very beautiful people is they often have one or two characteristics that are atypical. So they may have very average proportions, except for example, a strong chin or an asymmetrical eyebrow. There's yet another way to understand beauty, which is about the emotional expression of a face. So sadly, as you get older, the signs of aging are also correlated with looking less happy. If you think about it, a descent of your cheek, descent of the corner of your mouth, increase in nasolabial folds, the rotation of a chin upwards, the formation of a mental crease, frown lines, and descent of the eyebrow are all associated with looking less happy, sad, or cross. Even the loss of volume in your lips makes you look more cross as you've pursed your lips. This is one of the core reasons why patients seek treatment is not necessarily because they want to look younger, but the feeling they get when they see themselves in the mirror is not the feeling that they feel on the inside. They're looking for someone to help them see what they are feeling on the inside, which is at least neutral and not sad. So the way that we treat our patients must take into account the emotional expression that we create, the affect. How does that face make you feel when you look at it? And what we're aiming for is positive to neutral. If you aim for anything more than that, it can look uncanny. So this would be the Joker face. If you overtreat a DAO, for example, or put too much filler in the inferior part of the oral commissure, you can make someone smile inappropriately. And it's very obvious to people around them that this is not a genuine smile, and it strikes them as unusual, and it makes them not look attractive. There are many parts of restoration, for example in the cheek, that actually create a positive aura without making you smile. If you think about what happens when a patient smiles, their cheek rises up, they get a catch light under their eye, and this makes them look happy. If you lose volume in your anterior cheek, this area becomes straight and you get a shadow instead of a catch light. This creates a subtle sense of sadness or unhappiness, even though the patient feels neutral. And this is why volume in the cheek in particular can make someone look happier, but similarly support the oral commissure or revolumizing a lip or supporting an eyebrow all can make a patient look happier and more alert, even if their primary goal is to look fresher or younger or get rid of a wrinkle. So let's go back now to the photo that we started with. Almost unanimously, most people will choose the image on the right as being more attractive than the image on the left. But why? If you can understand this, you'll be empowered to give the correct suggestions or to ask for the right advice if you're a patient seeking treatment. The first thing is, of course, this is a female, and we are therefore going to be attracted by female characteristics. These tend to be, for example, higher eyebrows rather than eyebrows that are lower set, which go more with masculine faces. And that's the first difference that I see with the image on the right. The next that I perceive is the ratio between the cheeks and the jawline. If you have a look at the jawline on the image on the left, you'll see that it is relatively flush with the cheek, whereas in the right picture, the cheek is more dominant. We see more cheek and less jawline, which is more compatible with a feminine face. Staying in the mid-face, you can see that the nose is also broader, also a masculinizing feature. So the nose, although still feminine, has been shifted more towards a masculine shape, making it less attractive. The next is the mouth, where the mouth has been made smaller but wider. So we have a relatively shorter height of the lips, but a wider mouth, which makes it look more disproportionate. Female characteristics tend to be more dominant in lips, so a large dominant lip is associated with fertility. If you look at male and female faces, you'll see that lips are proportionately larger in females. This changes as you get older and is a sign of youth and fertility. Finally, we have the angle of the jaw. In the image on the left, you will see that the jaw is projected outwards with a much stronger and wider gonal angle, which therefore bluntens the angle between the chin and the gonal angle. Essentially, she is less heart-shaped and more square on the image on the left than on the image on the right. Overall, the end result is that all the features on the left image are bigger, and it makes her eyes look relatively smaller compared with the image on the right, where the original features are relatively small in terms of jawline, mouth, and nose. The story overall is one of a loss of dominance of the eyes, and this is one of the key features I think we should all be aware of, that for most faces we want the eyes to dominate, and anything that you do that makes the eyes less important will often make your patient less attractive. Remember, my team is on a mission to build an amazing clinic based on aesthetics and longevity, and if you'd like to join to learn so that you can do the same wherever you are in the world as a clinician, make sure you follow us. If you're a patient and you want to learn more about health and wellness and beauty, make sure you follow us. If you'd like a download to help summarize this video and help you learn more about this subject, make sure you get the free download that comes with this video. Just click at the link down below.